Sorry, photographers, but we only have 30 minutes, so take one shot, not 12. Oh, whoa, autographs later, sorry. Les photographes, please, photographers, please, dégagez. Et pendant que vous dégagez, soyez assez gentils. Lorsque vous avez une question à poser, levez-vous, faites un signe un petit peu à l'avance, levez-vous, posez votre question, présentez-vous, rendez le micro et rasseyez-vous. D'avance, merci. Come on, guys. Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
And that laugh is legit. That one.
No, later, please.
Later.
Watch how fast. All right.
Bien, bonjour à tous, hello everyone, et bienvenue à la conférence de presse pour Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Je vais très vite vous présenter les personnes qui sont ici à ce podium. Hello everyone, welcome to the press conference for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Interesting. And I introduce the people who are with us today. Center, the writer, the director, celebrating also, almost to this day, the 25th anniversary of his Palme d'Or for Pulp Fiction, Mr. Tarantino. One layer of the story that you saw yesterday is the story of the friendship between two men, an actor slightly on the decline, and his stuntman. The actor, Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio. The stuntman, Mr. Brad Pitt. Next to Mr. Tarantino, the film waves another kind of thread in the story of friendship, and that's Sharon Tate and the Manson family. As Sharon Tate, Miss Margot, Robbie. We could have an empty chair, actually, for one of the main characters of the film, and that's Hollywood. The work, the biz, the state of mind, the place itself. The omnipresence of the small screen, as they used to call it then, and the bombardment of commercials, songs, and news on radio. Congratulations, by the way, to your sound team. Sitting next to me, someone...
Congratulations for your wonderful subtitles that you did for us.
Thank you. Sitting next to me, a person who fairly early on was an observer of what was happening on a Quentin Tarantino set. Jackie Brown, I think, was your first outing? With Tarantino. And the making of Kill Bill 1 and 2. It was, of course, par for the course that she would one day enter the Tarantino family, which she did as an executive producer with Death Proof and Grindhouse, and then Django Unchained, and then Hateful Eight, and then today, Miss Shannon McIntosh. Last but certainly not least, the man, the gentleman, is to the manor born. His mother, Norma, produced, among others, Dangerous Liaisons with John Malkovich and Glenn Close, and Burning Secret. His father produced more than 100 films, including extensive work with Joseph Losey, Secret Ceremony, Doll's House, The Go-Between. He also taught his son the importance of finding the right property to make into a film, the son listened and did and came up with Harry Potter. And the rest, from Gravity to Paddington 1 and 2 to Fantastic Beasts, is history. Mr. David Heyman. And we'll get a question immediately.
Good morning. Peter Hull from the Toronto Star newspaper in Canada. Congratulations on a great movie. Question for Quentin Tarantino. Quentin, this topic of the Manson family has sort of possessed the public mind for about half a century, and also yourself more recently, I suppose. But can you sort of explain what you think the reason is why we're still so fascinated in this story?
That's a pretty good question. I think we're fascinated by it because at the end of the day, it almost seems unfathomable. I've done a lot of research on it, and I think a lot of people have not done professional research, but over the last few years, either they read one book or two books or listened to the podcast that develop about it or TV specials every 3 years or so. And how he was able to get these girls and even these young boys to just submit to him, it just seems unfathomable. And frankly, the more you learn about it and the more information you get and the more concrete it gets, it doesn't make it any clearer. It actually makes it even more obscure the more you know. And I think the unknowingness of it, the impossibility of being able to truly understand it, I think is what causes its fascination.
Jazz.
Good morning, Chaz Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Hey, Chaz.
Hi, Quentin, and RogerEbert.com. I am really happy to see you up there. I remember 25 years ago, I think,
Yeah?
buying you a plate of spaghetti on the beach.
I remember that well.
And now you are like the hottest ticket here. My question, I said they told us to keep it to one question. I want to first thank Leonardo and Brad for the environmental and humanitarian causes you support. That's very important.
Thank you.
My question is a philosophical one. The characters did sort of a taking stock. There was a very sweetness about them taking stock of where they were in life, in their career, and in their lives. And this question is for you and Leonardo and Brad. As you take stock of your life and career, what insights can you share with us?
Kind of a heavy lifting question, Chaz.
In 25 words or less, Quentin.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can honestly say that my taking stock is different than it would have been 3 years ago or 4 years ago or even 10 years ago, or almost any other time since I've known you, Chaz, because I just got married 6 months ago. In fact, you're sitting in front of, my wife is sitting in front of you. And I've never done that before, and now I know why. I was waiting for the perfect girl. So frankly, to tell you the truth, my taking stock is happening right now, so I don't have any, there's no bottom line at the end of it with a sum up, because I'm right in the middle of adding the equations to this moment.
Well,
is that right, dear?
Question over there. I'm sorry, guys.
oh, okay. Well, I'll make it quick. Just certainly in relationship to this character, taking stock of my own life, I immediately identified with this character in a lot of ways because I grew up in the industry, and this guy is sort of on the outskirts of times that are changing, and he's sort of left behind. And it, for me, ultimately, it's just an immense appreciation that I have for the position that I'm in, and the fact that this guy is suddenly sort of struggling with his own pathos, his own ability to gain confidence and persevere and get that next job. I don't know. I immediately connected with him. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and I know how lucky I am to be in this opportunity. So I just feel immense gratitude.
And I would say that, I see Rick and Cliff, the two characters that Quentin's created kind of as one individual. And it really comes down to acceptance of your place, your life, your surroundings, your challenges, your troubles. And we find in the Rick character, we see someone who's hilariously so, feeling like put upon by life, and it's not good enough, life's against him, with some of the greatest breakdown scenes I've ever seen by my friend Leo here. And then in the Cliff character that Quentin created, you see a guy who's gone past that and is at a place of acceptance with his lot in life, quite at peace, will take whatever comes and knows he'll figure it out as we go. So for me, it comes down to acceptance.
If I may ask a question to Margot about her character, which is based on a real life character. Theirs is not, or not. How do you go about this? There are two ways to go about this. Is you watch every single footage of Sharon Tate, or you just go, I don't want to watch anything about her. I will base myself and my work on the character on the page. How did you go about it?
Both, I suppose. I did a lot of research and watched and read everything I could, but at the same time, I think as an actor, our job is to understand or try and understand what purpose our character serves to the story. So more importantly, it was why is this character in the story? And to me, Quentin said it to me early on, she's the heartbeat of the story. And for me, I just saw her as a ray of light, and I just wanted her to be light. And that was my job and my role to serve in this story. So I kind of applied to myself to the character in that respect, and in doing so, I felt like I could honor the memory of real life Sharon Tate, who so many people said was such a bright light in this world.
Thank you.
Question from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca from TV Globo, to Tarantino. First of all, thank you for existing. Yes. There are several references throughout your film to real artists, but two of them really made me moved in the film. Sergio Corbucci and Ron Nelly, that was Tarzan and Doc Savage. Could you please tell a few words about those two persons?
Oh, well, Sergio Corbucci is one of my favorite directors, and Django Unchained in particular was based on the work of Sergio Corbucci, my version of it. And so so when I was going to have Rick go to Rome to make a Western, to actually have him start his first Western, Nebraska Jim, with Sergio Corbucci, well, that means Rick's doing good. There's a lot of junky movies he could have made there, but if he's working with Sergio Corbucci, he's actually working with one of the great masters of all time. Now, he doesn't appreciate that. Rick just thinks it's Italian junk. But, me 40 years later would be really honored. If I were to bump into Rick Dalton now, I would be like, so you worked with Sergio Corbucci? Yeah, well, that Italian piece of junk? Yeah. But there was actually something funny because the clip that we show in the movie Operazione Dynamite, all right, that's actually from a Sergio Corbucci movie called Moving Target. But I didn't have that one directed by Corbucci. I had it directed by Margheriti for the simple fact that Rick was a little bit of a jerk on Nebraska Jim, so Sergio Corbucci wouldn't have hired him twice. And then and mentioning Ron Eli from the Tarzan show, I just liked the idea that now Rick is doing guest shots on other people's TV shows that, he's not doing Mannix. He's not doing, more Perry Mason or these kind of shows. It's like all kind of it's kiddie science fiction or kiddie shows like Tarzan, Land of the Giants, Green Hornet, which again, it goes right over his head. He doesn't get it, so it's just ridiculous as far as he's concerned. I imagine Rick sitting on his director's chair while Ron Eli, dressed in his loincloth, sitting next to Rick talking to him about, so were you almost in The Great Escape?
Hello, Ernesto Garrat from Chile. Thank you for this wonderful movie. Chilean
Thank you.
press. I want to ask Mr. Tarantino, how's working with a Chilean newcomer, Miss Francesca in the movie,
Yeah, yeah.
Lorenza Iso, and how is your feeling in terms of empathize with newcomer artists? You know, it's difficult to start in Hollywood sometimes, no?
Well, I'm friends with Lorenza, and I've seen her work before because she's done a few films with my buddy Eli Roth. So I was very familiar with Lorenza's work. But I've seen her in like at least 3 different starring parts. And, but I didn't just give her the role. She actually came in and auditioned. But the thing that was great is not only did she learn the dialogue in Italian, she learned about like 20 different phrases in Italian that she could also say. Even that whole thing when she's being interviewed by the cops, she just improvised that. She just was able, she knew enough to actually be able to improvise in Italian. I was very impressed. And I think she's very funny in the movie. She's exactly the kind of, she's almost like the Italian starlet scatterbrain that you see in a lot of Italian comedies of that era.
Question over here.
Hello, Deborah Cole from Agence France Presse. I have a question for Quentin Tarantino. A lot of people have talked about the sort of emotional power of this film as the way you've, revised history and taken this tragedy and turned it into something else. And I'd like you to talk about your relationship to Roman Polanski and his work. You focused on Sharon Tate here. He's barely in the film yet. Rick talks about him, as the greatest filmmaker alive. So could you talk about his influence on your work and whether you know him personally?
I've met him a couple of times. I mean, he doesn't really talk about him as the greatest filmmaker alive. He talks about him as the hottest filmmaker alive, which at that time, it's almost unfathomable now to think about how much money Rosemary's Baby made in its day. Back then, if a movie made $8 million, it was like, oh my God. All right, that made like $35 million or something. No, I'm a fan of Roman Polanski's work, but in particular Rosemary's Baby. I like that a lot.
Okay, go ahead.
Oui, bonjour. Je voulais poser également une question à Quentin Tarantino. Je voulais savoir s'il avait eu l'occasion, à un moment ou un autre, ou peut-être récemment, de s'entretenir, d'échanger avec Roman Polanski pour lui confier, lui révéler la version quelque peu insolite et assez déjantée qu'il donnerait de cette tragédie, sans vouloir...
Attendez un tout petit instant. Could you put your translation on?
No, I thought you were going to translate it for me.
Oh. OK. Alors, reprenez votre question, mais courte comme ça.
D'accord. Je voulais demander à Quentin Tarantino s'il avait eu l'occasion d'échanger à un moment ou un autre avec Roman Polanski pour lui révéler la version, ce qu'il allait en faire donc de la tragédie qui le touchait personnellement.
OK. Have you discussed and talked to Tarantino, to Roman Polanski about what element from that tragic element from his life you were going to use and how you were going to use it in the film?
No, I didn't.
La réponse est non.
Hi. Hello, Brian Johnson from Maclean's in Canada. Thanks for the exhilarating moment in Cannes to all of you. You've talked about Sharon Tate as channeling the light at the heart of this movie. There are other women who are channeling a very profound darkness, the acolytes of Charlie. Can you talk a bit, Quentin, about how you viewed those women? And they, without giving anything away, of course, they do become a target of extreme rage in the film. And in an age where any kind of, violence against women or whatever is touchy ground, you're treading on sort of some very tricky territory there. So I'm wondering if you can address that as delicately as you can, given the plot issues.
Yeah, well, I can't really address the end of I can't really address that much without de facto talking about stuff. So I'll just focus more on the way the gals are portrayed in the Spawn Ranch scene, and and also the Spawn Ranch scene took place before most of I think all the murders started. So they were just this freaky hippie commune at that point in time in February '69. And look, they're creepy. No 2, 3, 4 ways about it. But I tried to not, even though there's a sinisterness that you see at the Spahn Ranch scene, I also tried to just try to show a little bit about what their day-to-day was there. He doesn't go there during a big event. It's like it's even vaguely deserted for them. And so, you know, you see Lulu and you see Tex, and they're just giving horseback rides, because that was actually part of their job. That was how the Spahn Ranch made money. Either rock groups going out there and renting Spahn Ranch for album covers for shooting purposes, or just giving follow-the-leader trail rides through the Santa Susana Canyons. And actually it turned out that like the family members were really great at that. They knew how to they knew how to saddle the horses and ride the horses, and they were very personable with the customers. When you see Lulu talking, she's always calling the customers by their first name. They were very, very personable. Now, I actually went horseback riding at 6 years old with my mom and my dad. I don't know if we went to Spahn Ranch. I like to think that we did, all right? We probably just went to Griffith Observatory, but I like to think in my mind that maybe we went to Spahn Ranch. You know, and one other thing was just, and there's some things I couldn't get across, but like for instance, Charlie didn't let them watch television, but Squeaky could kind of watch all the television she wanted because she was stuck up at the house with George. So in that situation, when they're all sitting there watching the Paul Revere and the Raiders show, what's happening, that's only happening because Charlie's not there. Normally, they wouldn't be able to watch TV that way.
I'd just like to add really quickly, I don't see it as a rage against individuals. I see it as a rage against a loss of innocence. That time, 1969, when the Manson murders occurred, this was a time, you know, building up to that, there was a free love movement. There was a lot of hope. There was these new ideas floating out there. Cinema was new, being recalibrated. And when that event happened, and the tragic loss of Sharon and others, what scares people and why it lasts so much today, I think, is because it was a sobering, dark look at the dark side of human nature, and that pivotal moment was a real loss of innocence, and I think that's what the film so beautifully addresses.
Monsieur. It's on.
Ah, c'est bon, c'est en français, donc je vous laisse le temps de traduction. Je vais essayer d'être...
Je prends des notes.
Très bien. Pour l'émission Quotidien. Votre film, c'est une lettre d'amour à 1969, limite nostalgique. Alors j'ai une question qui s'adresse à toute l'équipe du film.
Voilà. Your film is a love letter to the late 60s, 69 in particular.
L'équipe s'adresse à toute l'équipe du film, aux acteurs aussi.
The question is for you all.
Est-ce que vous préférez l'époque dans laquelle vous jouez ou notre époque actuelle, parfois difficile ou violente?
Do you prefer the late 60s as opposed to the time that we are living in now?
To what? Do you prefer the time then in '69 or our time to be able to make films in today's climate?
It's to us all. Go ahead.
To us all.
Yeah, David.
I prefer, we're living today, living in the moment, and to one of the fundamental themes, acceptance. We live today, have to live today. It's trying to make this world as good a place as it can be. I can't go back to 1969.
Okay. I hope I don't have to translate. Thank you.
I prefer any time before cell phones.
Go ahead.
Hello. My question goes to Tarantino. I would like to ask you, do you hesitate a little bit before you start the reconstruction of the story of real people, the tragic story? Is it a difficult choice for you or not? Thank you.
No.
Great.
Sweet and simple. Go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Helen Barlow from Australia. Hi.
Brad and Leo, what's it like for you to work together for the first time? This is the very first time, as has been reported. And have you ever missed out on roles to each other? Have there ever been times when you weren't friends? And how well did you know each other before, and how better do you know each other now?
Wow, it's a multitude of questions, but I think it all relates to the same thing. I think, there was an incredible ease and comfort getting to work alongside Brad. I mean, we kind of grew up in the same generation, got our start around the same time. And to be honest, Quentin gave us this incredible backstory for our characters. I mean, he literally came to us with a Bible of their work together, their friendship together, what they've been through in the industry, how they're now on the outskirts of this sort of new era in Hollywood, and they're outsiders. And all that sort of fed into this immediate comfort and ease that I think he and I had with one another. And look, Brad is not only a terrific actor, but he's a professional. So when Quentin puts you in these sort of improvised scenarios, and we both sort of have a great foothold on our history and our character, I have to say it was incredibly easy working with Brad. And I think we together forged, hopefully, a great cinematic bond in a film about our industry together.
I would agree. It was great ease and really great fun. I had a great laugh with him. And it's that thing of knowing you got, the best of the best on the opposite side of the table, holding up the scene with you. And there's a great relief in that. And as Leo said, we have the same reference points. We kind of came on at the same time. We've been going through this at the same time, have similar experiences to laugh about, and I hope we get to do it again. It was great fun.
Were you ever tempted to, at the early stage of the production or pre-production, to switch parts, you and Leo?
No, I don't think that way.
Okay.
Hi, Jason Gorber from ThatShelf.com. Congratulations on the film. Margot, thank you for I, Tonya. I'm wondering if we could talk about the Tarantino verse and what it's like living in Quentin's mind as the performance. If we could talk about what it's like to inhabit this world that Quentin constructs. And Quentin, in many ways, this is a reflection back on your own cinema. There are echoes, obviously, to the Vega. There's echoes to a shot out of Jackie Brown. In some ways, this is your own reflection back on your own career. I'm wondering if now that the film is done, if you could give us what you've learned from what you've done and what you see moving forward in terms of your own cinema.
I think there is. It wasn't meant to be ridiculously self-conscious, but I think there is a bit of summing up of certain things that I wasn't necessarily trying to do, but they just started appearing. I just remember when one of the first people to read the script was my my first AD, Bill Clark, and he's been my first AD since Jackie Brown, and on Pulp Fiction he was a PA, and he's can't even imagine making a movie without him. And so he came down to the house to read it, because we weren't giving it out. You have to come to my house to read it. These guys will tell you that. And he came down to the house to read it, and so it's okay. So this is number 9, huh? Okay, And he goes out by the pool and he reads it, and he comes back. Damn. Number 9 is like all 8 of them put together. And I hadn't really thought about it like that, but then, there was just, little things.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions. There, where? Okay, go ahead.
I'm Rui from Portugal, the Noticias and Cinetendinha.pt. The question is for Quentin or Leonardo. I was wondering if Rick is really, for you guys, a great actor.
Hell yeah, Rick Dalton's a great actor. No, but adding to your question, which I think I'd like to say in combination, just to talk about Quentin's very unique process. There are few people in this world that have the collective knowledge about not only cinematic history, but music and television. It's almost like tapping into a computer database. And the wealth of knowledge is unfathomable, and it keeps coming and coming. So in a way, I really think this movie is his love story to his industry, and he's put at the helm of it 2 kind of characters that are outsiders, and the 60s have come along, and this industry has sort of passed them by. But I think we all of us at this table at one time felt like outsiders in the industry. And it's really a love letter to the industry and those people that he appreciates, I think. I mean, we studied people like everyone from Ralph Meeker to Eddie Burns to Ty Hardin, all these actors whose work that he really appreciates from an artistic perspective, who contributed in his mind to this, you know, this catalog of cinematic and television achievements. And it's his love letter to the outsiders of the industry, and that was what was most touching about the story for me in a lot of ways. But you know, to me, it's a sort of film for him about coming home. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's truly a love letter to this industry that we're so fortunate enough to work in.
You know, there was a scene I ended up taking out where it's revealed in the scene with Marvin the agent that at one point when McQueen was offered The Great Escape, that he vacillated a little bit about whether or not to do it. And he vacillated enough that John Sturges had to make a list of possible replacements. And Rick's name was on the list. And there was Rick and the three Georges, Picard, Maharis, and Chacaris, and Rick. And they kind of talk about it for a moment, and Marvin says, no, he doesn't like the story because he didn't get it, and he thinks, enough of this damn story. All right, but Marvin goes, no, it's a good story. We can see you in it. And then we actually had a thing where you see Rick in The Great Escape. You see Rick in The Great Escape doing a scene with the Nazi colonel in this scene where the scene that kind of made McQueen a star, when he kind of stands up to the colonel. And we pulled it off to a fare-thee well. It was great. It looked good. In fact, I mean, too scary. I'm afraid that somebody's going to do Casablanca and put George Clooney in it. All right. But it looked great. And the thing that was really cool about it is you watch it and go, yeah, Rick would have been good. Rick would have been good in The Great Escape. I don't think he would have been as good as McQueen, but he would have been good.
Question over there.
Farah Nairi from the New York Times. I had a question, same question for Quentin and Margot. Quentin, you have put Margot Robbie, a very talented actress, actor, in your film. She was in with Leonardo in Wolf of Wall Street, I, Tonya. This is a person with a great deal of acting talent, and yet you haven't really given her many lines in the movie. And I wondered, I guess that was a deliberate choice on your part, and I just wanted to know why that was, that we don't hear her actually speaking very much. And Margot, I wanted you to also comment about being in the film in this part.
Well, I just reject your hypotheses.
Like I said earlier, I always look to the character and what the character is supposed to serve to the story. I think the moments that I got on screen gave an opportunity to honor Sharon and the lightness. I don't think it was intended to delve deeper than, like Brad also mentioned, I think the tragedy ultimately was the loss of innocence, and to really show those wonderful sides of her, I think could be adequately done without speaking. I did feel like I got a lot of time to explore the character, even without dialogue specifically, which is an interesting thing because I often do look to the interaction with other characters to inform me on the character. Rarely do I get an opportunity to spend so much time on my own as a character, going through a day-to-day existence. That was actually an interesting thing for me to do as an actor. I actually really appreciated the exercise and felt that I could deliver what I wanted to on screen.
I'm afraid our time is up. Thank you all very much for being here today.
Thank you.